Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friend Sam Clement. Sam, say hello.
Hey, John, how are you doing?
Sam, I'm doing fantastically. Absolutely doing fantastically. And, this week we're going to talk about something perhaps a little bit more philosophical in nature than what we normally do. Normally talk about inflation, the Federal Reserve, the markets, all that good stuff. However, a listener actually sent in an email to us asking, well, at least me, the question, for all intents and purposes, can income buy happiness? Or I think the words that she actually used is happiness impacted by income. And for which I've got to say, listen, I don't think it hurts.
Yeah, I've always, and I didn't come up with this, but the saying I've always associated this with is money may not be able to buy you happiness, but it can buy you jet skis. And I've never seen anyone unhappy on a jet ski.
Now, before we sound too materialistic, let's just get some basic stuff out of the way. Being poor is not any sort of crime, nor is it really anything to be embarrassed about. However, it's no great honor either. I think the milkman Tevye said that in Fiddler on the Roof. But the thing is, does money bring all the happiness that you can want in the world? And I would say unequivocally, absolutely not.
I think we may be trading perspectives here
Fair
a little.
enough.
And, I talked to you for just a split second before, printed out a few things that I'd read on this before that I thought were pretty interesting, impactful. I mean, Daniel Kahneman's a very well-known psychologist and with an economics tilt towards it. And I think you have to start separating out the words life satisfaction and emotional happiness, and those two things we've started to see.
Wow.
His takeaway from his big study that came out over a decade ago was that life satisfaction, if you just tell people how would you rate your life on a 1 to 10, that tends to keep going up with money. But emotional well-being or happiness or unhappiness, that his original study showed that starts to flatten out, and you don't get that increased return in happiness once you're making over $75,000 a year. And again, that's probably even adjust that for inflation and what have you, but intuitively that probably makes sense on an emotional level. There becomes a point where the goalposts just keep moving. You have the general well-being. You're maybe not worried about putting food on the table as much, and from that point, yeah, it's harder. An increase in dollar probably doesn't have the same return as if an increase in a couple dollars means less worry about food on the table.
Well, the truth is, in my estimation at least, that it's kind of a loaded question. Can money buy you happiness? And I said unequivocally no. However, there is a caveat with that. Because I live in a relatively wealthy country, in a relatively wealthy section of town here in central Alabama. My definition of income is going to be significantly different than someone that lives in the slums of Belo Horizonte in Brazil, or I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I was going to ask. That was going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah, where that come from?
Places.
Or Kinshasa, or something like that. Their definition of income is going to be completely different. I have my primary needs already met.
Sure.
I've got a house over my head, clothes on the back, food on the table, all those things that my father told me about over and over again. Look what I've done for you. They really wasn't like that. But you know what I'm saying? My needs are basically met in terms of that. Access to healthcare, all that stuff, access to goods and services, and this has been brought about by income, right?
Sure.
And so I have to have that. But so I'm sitting here perhaps being a little bit cavalier, saying money can't buy you happiness. However, it does buy those things which at least give you the opportunity to determine what your own happiness is.
Right, and it gives you that optionality, I think, is a big part of it. It's not going to guarantee it, but it gives you that. Everybody knows someone who either retired or has the ability to retire, and almost just makes their life more stressful than it has to be. A big part of wealth management and financial planning is to take stressors off people, to let them spend more where they were stressed out, what have you. And a lot of people just have the opposite reaction to it, just put stressors on their life. So it's not a guarantee that it's going to cause, more happiness. It's not going to make you think your quality of life or your life satisfaction is necessarily that much better. But I do think, largely speaking, painting in a broad brush, the people who are generally happier, I think, do continue to have increased emotional happiness from more money. I think it's when you start to get into people who would be put in studies as largely unhappy where the money starts to have less and less of an impact.
Well, I'll tell you that this topic really does run the risk of delving into the theological, because I would tell you that I've met some very wealthy people in my life who are miserable son of bitches. I mean, and then I've met some people that I make significantly more money than they do, and they are some of the happiest people. Mm-hmm. What I've generally found is those people that have had their physiological needs met, truthfully, I mean, just clothes on the back, as I said, roof over the head, food on the table, those people which I have met, which are the happiest, are those people for which income is not a driving concern. Mm-hmm. That there is something else that fills that gap in their psyche, or their ego, their id, or whatever it is. I wasn't terribly good at whatever that class was. that stuff in college. It's those people for which income doesn't fill that
sure.
gap. There's something larger out there for them, as opposed to going back to the jet ski or taking the massive trip. And so I've actually found that some people, frankly, a lot of people who are missionaries, who do mission work, generally seem to have a peace about them that a lot of people that I know that are significantly wealthier than they have. So I would say, you have to have your needs met. However, if all you focus on is the amount of money that you have, the amount of income that you have, what you can buy next, how you can outbeat the Joneses and all that stuff, money in that situation will never buy you happiness.
But I think we're on the same page that if you take two...
You said to start out that we were going to be trading perspectives.
I think we were a little bit. We're meeting
Am I just convincing you so much? And thank you all for listening.
We're clearing up some definitions of it. But I do
enough.
think for two identical people, one had more money they could try and spend in their lifetime, and one who had their needs met. Yes, both of those people need to be focusing on things that they're passionate about, things that are more important to them than just financial gain. But it's hard for me to argue it shouldn't be a little easier for the person with unlimited money.
Well, I would tell you that, again, it goes back to once they have their physiological needs met. Now, that might be a relative definition. Mm-hmm. Someone might say that my physiological need is more than a one-room hut, with a thatched roof. I need to have indoor plumbing and, something nice, a Viking range. I mean, everything's going to be a little bit different in that regard. And this, obviously, you can sit there and say, well, gee whiz, Norris, you're slicing it pretty thin here. You're getting to lose me on your argument. There are various definitions to it. And oftentimes it's going to be based relative to your own environment.
Yeah.
If I live again in that slum in Belo and in Brazil, a one-room house or shack that happens to have electricity might be more than enough. I mean, I might be the envy of my neighbors. I have no idea. I've never been there. For someone that, is able to, in many countries around the world, someone that is able to have protein several times a week, that is going to be the envy of their neighbors.
Send their kids to school.
All that type of stuff. So everyone's definition of what their physiological needs are going to be met until it reaches some kind of dividing line.
It's a lot of this feels uniquely... it's uniquely Western of an issue, and I would argue
without a doubt that we're even sitting around talking about does money buy you happiness? Because the truth is, most people around the world are struggling. Even here in the United States, are struggling to have their physiological needs met and don't have the luxury of thinking, well, hey, does money buy me happiness? No, money buys me groceries.
Yeah. You're focusing on that first level of needs before shifting down to wants. But even just focusing, I said Western, but even focusing on America, the United States, we are a massively wealthy country, even on the lower ends of the spectrum here compared to almost every other country on earth.
Yes. The poorest of the poor here in the United States still have access to goods and services that are unfathomable for the wealthy in many countries on this planet.
And people always joke about, would you rather be a king a couple hundred years ago or bottom quartile now? That may be tough, but
I've seen pictures of Versailles. That seems pretty dope. That crib's pretty cool. But that living in Versailles couldn't buy me happiness, as I've already established.
The guillotines may cause some issues and running away, all that good stuff. But no, you get my point in that our quality of life here is very unique. I mean, we have how much our economy has grown rising tides lift all boats, not to the same level, but as a whole, we are a uniquely wealthy country. And then you get into the keeping up with the Joneses portion of it, which is again probably a slightly. That only, I feel like, starts to happen after you get past the physiological needs portion of it.
Yes.
I mean, you're not comparing, I would assume not, if you're just trying to literally survive. It's who got the new car.
I mean, if you're sitting around struggling to get manioc chips on the table, to feed your children, you're not too terribly worried about the recent improvements of the David Yurman bracelet line.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of thing. I would tell you though that those people that are looking for money to fill the emotional void in their life, they'll never find happiness.
No.
I mean, if you are looking, I've got to have, again, going back to that, I've got to have that. I've got to have that. I'm not going to be happy if I don't have this, or something along those lines. Those people, I mean, no, you'll never be able to buy them happiness. And I would say that there might be some generational things. When you're younger, just starting out, your physiological needs and all that stuff is going to be a lot different than mine. It's kind of like my next move is downsizing. Your next move is buying a bigger house, more than likely.
Yeah.
That sort of type thing. So, I mean, it's like your definition of what is necessary to meet your needs is going to be different than mine. And as a result, I'm going to sit there and tell you that the emotional needs in my life are not going to be filled by the crap I can buy. I mean, right now we are going through our garage very slowly, getting rid of stuff. So if I'm sitting there saying, hey, I need to have this, I need to have all this money, don't get me wrong. Taking a trip is nice and having nice things that are nice and all that stuff. However, the older you get, if you're still worried about material crap and money, I just feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is just one of those things. The older you are,
the goalposts will always move.
The goalposts will always move. But the thing is, if you're still worried about that, then you really haven't matured as an adult, in my estimation. And I'm casting aspersions, all that stuff. And before I take the speck out of here, I need to take the lumber out of mine and all that stuff. However, I would just tell you that I think, will income buy you happiness? I think probably if I were to say, if someone were to push, more so the younger you are.
That's what I was going to get to. I think looking at it also from an age lens, I think is pretty important, because one thing I've learned more lately, and there's been times where I've talked with people who are graduating college soon, and one of the main takeaways I've said to all of them is the salary is important wherever you go work. You have to make money.
You have to do that.
But think even bigger picture, and at least what this is going to look like, and it is. You don't want to poo-poo it to people that this isn't important. Just take a job that you're happy with. There has to be some balance to it. But think beyond just the salary. And I don't think that's typically where people are thinking when they're 18, 22, 25 years old. But then you start to shift into that next stage of life, and whether it's you're starting to be settled in a career, or can at least picture where your career is going, you maybe start to have a family. That starts to probably shift your focus a little bit on what's important. Maybe you find other hobbies that you're passionate about, things you serve with, volunteering that you're passionate about, and all that stuff that most people aren't doing in the 18 to loosely 25 range, 24 range. You start to come to in that next stage of life, and that I think should start to shift your focus on what a little bit more money does. And that doesn't mean everyone wants to make more money. It allows you to do more. It creates more of that optionality we were talking about. But your perspective, ideally, that's natural that it should be shifting. What you're putting importance on should be shifting as you move from stage of life to stage of life.
Yeah, and I would tell you that I agree with everything that you just said. However, I could also argue that having nice things, all that stuff, doesn't necessarily mean happiness or whatnot. And you have to go back to you know, the old teachings. You know, it's not money's the root of all evil, as you all know. Money's not the root of all evil. Money is not, but on the same time, money alone can't buy you happiness. It is for the love of money that is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
It's the greed that is the evil. And as a result, I can sit there, can income buy you happiness? No, because if you're a greedy person, you're never going to be satisfied. And so that is inherent in you until you expunge that from your life. Now, at some point, maybe I've got so much, but frankly, you take a look at some uber wealthy people that are conspicuous consumers of wealth. And we all know them, if not directly, then indirectly through social media or just watching the television. Those people will never be happy. It doesn't matter what their income levels are. However, there are some other people that are fabulously wealthy that I know, that you know, that seem to be very happy.
Incredibly happy.
And the reason for it is money is not the primary focus on their life, and while they are incredibly wealthy, it's not the love of money which makes them happy.
That's kind of a truth for any income level.
Yeah.
You know, going back to just using that $75,000 number, if your biggest focus is to get to $80,000, that's probably going to be detrimental to your happiness. I'd say. Not that you don't like. I'm not.
Well, the thing is, you're going to be with a chip on your shoulder the whole time. If all it is that extra $5,000.
If it's I'm getting screwed over,
I'm getting screwed, I'm deserved, someone else, and all that stuff.
Or if you're a billionaire and you're saying, I see so and so with my 100-foot yacht, and they have a 500-foot yacht, and so that is almost doesn't matter what your income level is. You have to have, I think, the right perspective on it. And the right perspective on your life anyway.
And I would say that moving forward, this will become more and more of a problem for our society, at least here in the United States, and maybe even the Western world just in general. Because increasingly, in my estimation, and I don't think I'm necessarily just waxing nostalgic, our society is far more focused on the id, far more focused on the individual. I deserve this. You know, you deserve a break today.
Yeah.
You deserve this. You deserve this. Treat yourself. You know, all that stuff. The emphasis is always on treating yourself and individualism and you know something. You should go out in public and wear whatever you want because you are you.
Constantly measuring happiness, I think, is also probably pretty detrimental.
And social
How
media.
do you feel right now?
Yeah.
What's your happiness right now? This constant measuring of how happy or sad you are.
So when your primary focus is solely on you, you know, you, as opposed to others, frankly, community, ways that you can make the world a better place. But if all you're doing is focusing on you, well, you're going to end up being a greedy person.
Yeah.
There's no way you can't. You're going to end up being self-centered. And when you focus solely on self, no, I would sit there and tell you that income won't buy you happiness at all.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, and that you mentioned it, but for a lot of reasons, that's going to be a bigger and bigger focus. Everyone in our industry has talked about this wealth transfer that's going to happen over the next couple decades, really, probably already starting, but really in the next couple decades, this massive trillions of dollars is going to be transferred.
Well, that is that the boomers don't consume it all themselves. I mean, they seem to be living longer and, you know, trying to find happiness.
But so it's going to be a bigger focus, and I think there's a clip in the Wall Street Journal from a book called Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up, and that was, again, going back to this focus on constantly measuring your happiness.
Yes.
This constant, how do you feel today? How are you happy today? What can I do? And how that is actually pretty detrimental to kids growing up and being able to handle bad things happening to them, a down day, someone being rude to them, this constant measuring, this barometer of your happiness, and how it's pretty backed by science, been pretty detrimental to kids. So we have more kids growing up like that, have probably grown up like that for a while, and then a massive wealth transfer happening. So, and that's, like we've said, if that's already an issue, the money's not going to fix it.
No, the money's not going to fix it. It's something, if that it sounds like the situation's going to get worse. While you were talking about all that stuff and kind of taking a step to the side a little bit, constantly measuring happiness, constantly doing all that stuff, I just thought about the bullying and what passes for it these days. And I'm not going to sit there and say bullying's not out there. Well, for what passes as bullying, oftentimes from what I'm reading and what I'm understanding, yeah, I mean, there are truly some violent things. But from what I understand, we called that recess when I was a kid. And I'm not sitting there saying we walked to school uphill both ways in the driving snow and pouring rain, without a doubt. However, there is a heck of a lot more focus on, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you happy? You
Yeah.
want another juice box? And that does extend all the way to adulthood.
Yeah.
So, the quicker that you can indoctrinate or teach your children to focus on other things besides just their own immediate happiness and think longer term. This is where I need
Greater
to
than themselves.
greater than themselves, and thinking, which is hard for children. I'm not going to sit there and say that it isn't, but focusing on a longer term goal as
Yeah.
opposed to the immediate gratification.
Yeah, kids are always going to focus more immediate gratifications.
Yeah.
A pure fact based on how their brain has developed so
Yeah.
far to that point. But you don't have to consistently
Yeah.
push them more towards that and incentivize them that way.
So kind of wrapping things up, I would sit there and tell you that it's when we talk about income and happiness, it's always kind of easy for us to kind of see such things from other people. Whether or not their conspicuous consumption of wealth is based due to emotional deficiencies or just a simple fact that they have it.
Yeah.
They can spend it. From the outside looking in, you don't know what's in someone's heart. You don't know whether or not someone's happy or miserable. Again, it's for the love of money is the root of all evil, and so you don't know exactly what's in people's minds and hearts. So it's a difficult question to answer. I would sit there and tell you though. I would say, going back to for the love of money, if it is the love of money that if it is the love of money which you think is going to make you happy, you never will
Yep.
be. As a result, money alone will not buy you happiness, in my estimation.
I'll shift my answer a little to the initial
Damn right,
question.
because I'm just so
And I don't know.
convinced.
I think this is really what I thought in the first place. My answer is it definitely can.
It can, yes.
I think that's an answer that I'm
Well,
confident in.
we could probably talk about this forever. Like, let's say you take Hannah on a worldwide trip. You take 2 months off.
Yeah.
No luxury of spirit. I could sit there from the outside going, look at Sam eating cash, trying to buy happiness, but then you could come back and say, that is what Hannah's always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you should have seen how happy she was the entire time.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and say, that's the reason
can
why I did it,
genuinely,
John.
yeah.
And you sit there and go, I did that not because I did that for Hannah's happiness. And that's what made the trip so memorable to me. So in that regard, it's not the money which made you happy, it's the other things.
Yeah.
So if it's just your own personal enjoyment of crap or thinking that that's going to fill a hole in your life,
Yeah.
again, going back to money will not buy happiness unless you use that money in order to do something bigger than yourself.
I agree.
Whew.
Started trading perspectives
Well,
and
there you
ended
go.
on the same
So
page.
there you have it. All right. Well, guys, thank you all so much for listening. We always love to hear from you all. So if you have any comments or questions, please, by all means, let us know. As always, you can drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, or you can leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. Also, if you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we got to say or how we think, you can always go to our website, oakworth.com, OAKWORTH.com. Take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab and find links to all kinds of exciting information, including previous podcast episodes of Trading Perspectives, our newsletter / blog, Common Sense, and our quarterly piece, Macro and Market, and all the individual components thereof, as well as periodic just little snippets of wisdom that we like to put out. So with that being said, Sam, you got anything else about income and happiness?
That's all I got.
That's all I've got today, too. Y'all take care.